Alright, y'all, I know that I did not do a review on TLC because I was sick as a dog that night. So, I actually did watch the pay-per-view a little bit later, but I know I did not do a review on it, so I'm going to go ahead and do a review this time since we only have 3 matches for Roadblock, and it's going to be a very, very short predictions video. So I'm actually going to get started with the predictions first and then go into my personal thoughts towards TLC afterwards. Now, when it comes to these matches, we all know that it's a possibility, huge possibility, that Sasha versus Charlotte is going to be the main event of the night. They main evented the last few pay-per-views. They're going to do it again. So I'm going to go ahead and put them as the main event. So let's talk about the other 2 matches before the main event. Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho. Okay, sure, we've had somewhat of a feud built up with this, even though it's kind of average at best. It's like they really don't know what to do with Seth Rollins anymore. They kind of shoehorn him into stuff. And his biggest... Let's put it this way. Let's be real here. Seth Rollins' feud is not with Jericho. It's with Triple H. Lord knows when we're going to see Triple H on a screen talking about what he did at... I guess it was on Raw. It was so long ago. I can't remember. But when we actually did have the Fatal 4-Way for the Universal title... and his interference for that has not even been talked about for months now. And his feud is actually with Triple H. But since we're not going to see Triple H in Lord knows how long, Jericho is kind of shoehorned in there to give him something to do. So, yes, him pedigreeing him on top of a car actually gives, of course, Chris Jericho motivation to get revenge. And yes, I will get revenge after that too. But let's talk about who is going to win here. Do I honestly believe that Chris Jericho is going to actually put anyone over? Has he put anyone over in any match he's been in? No. And if he has, it's been few and far in between. My vote goes to Chris Jericho for the win because his ego is just as big as Triple H's. I'm just going to say that right then and there. Or I could probably go the whole Vince McMahon route, but nah. I'll just say Triple H. They're kind of on an even kill. But other than that, Chris Jericho for the win. Which means, in my opinion, if Chris Jericho actually does win here, and I could be wrong, but I'm just going to stick to my win right there. If Chris Jericho actually does win here, that means that for Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns, that means that Kevin Owens is going to retain his title, which makes me incredibly happy. So in that match, and I know that match was incredibly short when it comes to predictions, that match is going to be a Kevin Owens match. He's going to win that match. And I'm happy to hear that because it's a huge rumor that Roman Reigns is going to be a double champion. He is going to hold the U.S. title and the Universal title at the same time, which is something I do not want to see at all on my screen. Mainly because Roman Reigns has disrespected that U.S. title more than any other person I have ever seen in my life. Actually, Kevin Owens, you can probably say he disrespected over the NXT belt, but in my humble opinion, Roman Reigns has disrespected it even being a champion. The guy has literally held the belt plate backwards when he comes down, holding it like a freaking satchel. Then he doesn't talk at all about the belt, let alone promoting it. And he acts like he doesn't even care, let alone know he's champion. Half the time when he comes out, he doesn't even have the belt around his waist. So does he care? No. And do I really want this guy to be the Universal Champion? No. I mean, even though that is an ugly belt, and it's still an ugly belt, like it's bleached with blood, I still do not want him to be a champion. I want him to lose that U.S. title. I literally want him to be a heel. But for some reason, if he's going to be a babyface champion, that is the wrong guy to put the belt on. And if they honestly execute that, I do not know what they have been smoking, let alone what they have been thinking going into it. And maybe they were smoking before they started thinking if they made that decision, which I hope that they did not. But other than that, I want Kevin Owens to actually retain his championship because that could lead up to something going down for the Royal Rumble, him versus Jericho, which is something I kind of do want to see because it's going to be an amazing match to watch for the Universal title. Because I know that Chris Jericho is going to ask to have a match for the Universal title before he leaves to go on tour with Fozzy. So he's going to have his championship match, but it's going to be on a Big 4 pay-per-view. That is why I do believe that if Chris Jericho loses his match with Seth Rollins, that means that Kevin Owens is going to keep his belt with Roman Reigns, and they're going to have a match at the Royal Rumble. I am saying that right now. I am locking it in. I could be wrong, but I don't care. Locking it in. Now let's talk about the main event. Now, for the main event itself, we have seen Charlotte versus Sasha multiple times. We have seen the same outcome multiple times. When it comes to pay-per-views, who wins? Charlotte. When it comes to Raws, who wins? Sasha Banks at the most epic way possible. And I'm not saying this because I'm a Sasha fan. I'm also a Charlotte fan as well. But let's be honest here, guys. I am highly concerned about the back and forth of this belt. The 50-50 booking is making the belt look weak. And I'm not so thrilled about it. Because they went out of their way at WrestleMania 32 to promote the women's revolution, to show that these women are equal to the men by having a belt that's not only gorgeous, but having the same equality to the main belt, to the men's belt, to having these women being equal to the male superstars. That was the overall goal of the women's division upgrade. That was the overall goal of that announcement. That was their overall purpose, was to elevate all the women on the roster and make them feel like that they're equal to the men. That is why they had that beautiful belt to represent them. And if they honestly keep doing the 50-50 booking, it is going to do nothing but make that belt look cheap and worthless if they keep making go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's bad enough that the women that they do have on their roster has been eclipsed by this feud. So this feud needs to die. It should not be resurged, have a resurgence, whatever. It should not come back. It should die at Roadblock, end of the line. Since we can't say Roadblock anymore. But who I think should win definitely should be Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks has not had a healthy title reign since she has been champion. The longest time she's had that title was 3 weeks. Charlotte has been undefeated on pay-per-views since WrestleMania 32, which is not fair at all. Her title reigns has lasted for months. Do not get it twisted. I love Charlotte Flair as a heel. Her heeldom has gotten better. I admire the snarkiness of her, and I admire how much she upholds herself like a queen, a heel champion. And I love it. I absolutely love her as a heel. She's getting much better on the mic. She's getting extremely snarky in the ring. I love her as a heel. But for Sasha Banks needs to have a bit of a chance to be the champion that I know she can be. If they choose to make her heel with Bayley down the line. That's why I'm saying that this feud should end, because her feud with Nia Jax should continue. If Charlotte loses here, then her feud with Bayley is going to continue, probably up on towards a pay-per-view, maybe, I don't know. I'm just going to throw a shot in the dark here. Maybe either the Rumble or who knows, WrestleMania. Who knows? But I really do think that they need to start preparing her feud with Bayley more so than her feud with Sasha or her getting the title back. She needs to lose here. And here's why. When Charlotte actually does lose twice, because let's be honest, her loss at Raw was stellar. Like, it was beyond, it was close to almost awesome. I'm going to say this. The way she lost, being bent backwards and having the base statement through a guardrail is not only ridiculous, but it was humiliating, having her own father coming out there being at her corner. I know they did something on Raw. I can't remember. I fell asleep. But I do know that moment on Raw stuck with me and stuck in my mind. You have to make the heel so desperate and so vicious that she will take anybody in her way out, including Bayley. I love Bayley. She makes me happy every time she comes out. But Bayley needs to bring out her aggressive side, and I know she has one. So you need to bring out the only way that a babyface, a true blue 100% babyface like Bayley, can bring out her aggressive side is she has a far aggressive heel. And there's no other aggressive heel there is when a heel gets desperate. So you need to have her lose the belt and have her going up against Bayley, because that means they're going to have an awesome match at a pay-per-view. I don't know when or which pay-per-view there is. But I know it's going to be an amazing match if you have Charlotte to be a very aggressive, very desperate heel. And plus, Sasha has not had the belt that long. Like I said before, her longest title reign was 3 weeks. that it's not fair, let alone it doesn't really give her the chance to be the babyface champion as she should be, even though she works far better as an anti-hero in my opinion. But that's just me. Now, if they actually do stick with having Nia Jax to be the next woman to feud up against Sasha Banks, they need to have her take the belt off of her at probably the second pay-per-view after WrestleMania. I'm just saying, possibly maybe 3 or 4 months of her having the title, and after WrestleMania, yes, have Nia Jax take it off and have Charlotte work her butt off to get there. Instead of her actually getting a rematch right away, have her have a little bit few distractions along the way. Maybe a few feuds, sub-feuds leading on up to the major feud. But that's just me. But I'm going off on a tangent here. Who I really think should actually win this match definitely should be Sasha Banks. Because there's so much more that you can do with Sasha Banks as a champion than you can do with Charlotte, in my opinion. Everything's been done with Charlotte. I'm not saying that there's nothing that can be done with her, but she could be more desperate and more vicious when the belt is taken off of her than when she actually has the belt on her. I'm just saying right there. So my vote actually goes to Sasha Banks for the win, and I'm hoping that it actually does go to Nia Jax and her feud with her down the line. Now, I'm going to go into my overall thoughts of TLC. Going from a Raw pay-per-view to a SmackDown review of a pay-per-view that just passed. But I'm just going to get into it right here. It was alright. It was, I would say, pretty average at best. But there were 2 matches, actually 3 matches that I absolutely adored and loved the most. Now, the match of the night, of course, for me, definitely was the Intercontinental Championship match with Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. That match was absolutely amazing. Not only did they do an amazing job setting up, the feud itself between the 2 men was absolutely so much emotion came from that match. Not only that, I love the fact that Maurice was not involved at all. I was happy that Maurice did not interfere and did not try anything to make The Miz capitalize or have him win, because it made The Miz seem like a legit champion. And he has done an amazing job as a heel. Not only has this guy actually promoted himself with the IC belt, he's promoted the IC belt with his whole persona. He's done an amazing job as a heel. I absolutely admire The Miz at this point. Not only that, he's amazing on the mic. And the way he said to Daniel Bryan, he was dedicate his match to Daniel Bryan, I thought was not only clever, it was an amazing way for a heel to act after winning and kind of rubbing it in the face of his haters. I love that. I absolutely did. That match definitely was the match of the night for me. Now, a surprise match of the night was the match that I actually got the prediction wrong for, and that was Baron Corbin versus Kalisto. I hated that match. Well, I don't really hated that match. I actually did enjoy that match. It surprised me how well that match was. I still couldn't understand why Kalisto kept grabbing a bunch of chairs when there were tons of chairs around him, but he kept going under the ring. I don't know why. But other than that, I guess that's an old habit that they all have. But despite all that, that was an amazing match. I didn't really expect that match to be good. I expected it to be short, sweet, and to the point, but it was a good match. It impressed me. I'm not gonna lie, it really did. I'm not fans of Baron Corbin. I don't think that Baron Corbin knows who he is as a character. It bugs the crap out of me. I don't see why everybody keep thinking this guy's a main eventer. I don't see it yet. Even though his end of days finisher is sick, I will say that I just don't see what people are saying. But other than that, it was an amazing match. Definitely was a surprise sleeper match of the night. And I honestly did not expect that match to actually happen. Now, let's talk about my third favorite match of the night, which was the main event. Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles. And yes, I did chuckle a little bit when his pants was ripped. And yes, I was looking at it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's AJ Styles, for crying out loud. That's a handsome man. But other than that, I will say this. That match was absolutely amazing. And AJ Styles, it shows how much of a professional that man is. That guy is phenomenal, no pun intended. You can't even use the word phenomenal without thinking of AJ Styles. That's how good AJ Styles is, man. Seriously. Dean Ambrose definitely did bring out the crazy. I'm not going to lie. And the one thing that made me happy is Dean Ambrose is always trying to bring out the crazy in all of his matches, but unfortunately he always has limitations, either with the people he works with or the fact that the people behind the scenes don't want to be that extreme. But at TLC, he had every right to be extreme, so he was allowed to be a little bit crazy. So that match was off the charts crazy. And AJ Styles was able to keep up, and I love that. The one thing I did not like was James Ellsworth getting involved, period. Now, don't get me wrong. I like James. I thought he was an actual cool kid at first. The fact that you saw a jobber come up like pretty much like an underdog and him actually getting championship matches, I kind of sort of enjoyed it. It was kind of my guilty pleasure. I'm not going to lie about that. But having him interfere in a championship match was uncalled for. It kind of took away from the moment. And I really did not want to see him there. I didn't. I wanted him to come out, somehow get kicked in the head, fall out, be on the ground for a while, and then the actual match will be able to continue. But unfortunately, they have him turn heel. Why? I don't know why. I guess it was supposed to be I don't know, man. It made no. And then it just didn't feel that way even after the pay-per-view. But other than that, let's talk about the pay-per-view itself. It made sense. In a way, before he explained it on Talking Smack, which kind of ruined it for me. It made sense for him to go against Dean, because Dean kind of used him to get to AJ Styles, even though AJ Styles pretty much gave him the Styles Clash the steps. So he really shouldn't have helped him win at all, because he was screwed by both individuals. That's just my humble opinion. And the one thing that I was hoping, if James Ellsworth actually did try to pull the heel moment, is for him to pull that ladder up, go up the ladder, take that belt, and run. If he did that, I would have been like, oh! Like, seriously. It would have been an amazing moment for me. If James Ellsworth climbed up that ladder, took the belt for neither individual to win, and ran out, I would have been completely fine with that switch if it happened. I would have been. But they didn't do it. They didn't execute that at all. It made no sense why he helped AJ Styles, and it kind of killed the moment for me. But even if it did, his interference was there. It did not completely kill the match. The match still was great. And I'm happy that AJ actually did win. But James wasn't needed. He wasn't needed at all. Now, let's talk about the other matches there. I don't even know why I should bother. I think the worst match of the night definitely was Carmella versus Nikki. Mainly because the feud itself was weak. There was really no build to it because there really was no purpose for Carmella to even attack Nikki. And I know that she was trying to make a name for herself, but it still made no sense to put John Cena into the mix. Because it has been proven multiple times that she can do her own thing without John Cena. So John Cena actually was irrelevant as any part of their argument or any part of her feud towards Nikki at all. It was irrelevant. So the feud itself was weak. The match itself was really weak. The only way that Nikki won was definitely having a fire extinguisher to the face. And I was actually shocked that she tried to do the rack attack even though she just came out of neck surgery not that long ago, and she wasn't allowed to use a rack attack anymore, but she kind of did an alternate version of the rack attack, which kind of made no sense to me. But other than that, yeah, that match was the worst match of the night. It was. Did I necessarily care much about the Cruiserweight? No, I don't really think I care much about it at all. I think the Cruiserweights had a match. I can't remember. But honestly, the best match of the night definitely was, the best match of the night definitely was the Intercontinental match. And the sleeper hit of the night definitely was Kalisto versus Baron Corbin. The main event was great. I have no beef towards that except towards the ending when James Ellsworth was involved. But the worst match of the night, of course, was Nikki versus Carmella. It was the worst match of the night. I'm sorry. The other matches, in my humble opinion, were okay. But there weren't enough to be like, oh my gosh, great, amazing. But they were great matches. I mean, they were decent matches. They weren't horrible or anything. But that's just my brief, opinion towards TLC. And those are my worst, best, sleeper hits, all that. That's how I feel about TLC. I don't want to discredit the other matches that I did not talk about. But I will say this, those matches were okay from what I actually do remember. And I don't really remember much, so I can't really say that they're okay if I don't remember that much of them. But other than that, guys, I'm just going to say this. TLC was a pretty decent pay-per-view. Except for maybe the Carmella versus Nikki. Which is, and especially the big surprise, the big reveal. Oh, it could have been Natalia. Yeah, sure. Woo. Wow. Shocker. It really wasn't. But other than that, guys, that's my thoughts towards TLC. That is my predictions towards Roadblock. What is yours? And what is your thoughts towards this past pay-per-view and the last two pay-per-views of the year? Leave in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. Naturegirl 30 signing off. Peace out. Later.